Hello students, in today's class we're going to see about the salient features of England Constitution. Let us go to the slides now. So before to go deeper into the salient features, let us have a look on what the Constitution is. Constitution is a rule book for a state. It sets out the fundamental principles to be governed by the state. It describes the main institutions of the state, for example, legislative body, executive body, and judiciary body, and also defines the relationship among them. Let us see the sources of England Constitution. Statutory laws, conventional laws, and common law. Statutory laws are laws passed by the Parliament. It is generally considered as the highest form of law in England. And second kind is conventional law. It was developed over a time through special meetings. And the third one is a common law. It was developed by the courts and judges through special cases. These are the salient features of England Constitution. Unwritten Constitution, it is evolutionary one, it is flexible, unitary versus federal features it has, and parliamentary executive, sovereignty of the parliament, rule of conventions, rule of law, and independence of judiciary. Let us see all of these features one by one. First feature of England Constitution is unwritten. The main reason for this unwritten feature, it is based on the conventions and political traditions which have not been laid down in any document, unlike a written constitution, which is usually a product of a constituent assembly. Written constitution will be the product of constitution assembly, but unwritten constitution is not so. It has not prepared for a particular time, particular committee. Okay, it was evolved over a time. If we take an example of Indian Constitution for a comparison, it was prepared by a constitutional drafting committee by the with the headship of Dr. Ambedkar. For it was prepared for within a particular span of time. But England Constitution is not so. It is unwritten, and this is the speciality of the England Constitution as such. The second feature of England Constitution was an evolutionary one. It is a specimen of evolutionary development. It was never framed by any constituent assembly like Indian Constitution. It has an unbroken continuity of development over a period of more than 1,000 years. Constitution evolved according to the needs and sensibilities of the time. The third feature is flexibility. It can be passed, amended, and repealed by a simple majority of 50% of the parliament, 50% of the members who presented their vote in the parliament, and the element of flexibility has provided the virtue of adaptability and adjustability to the British Constitution. This quality, the flexible quality, has enabled to grow with needs of the time. The fourth feature is unitary feature. The British Constitution has a unitary character as opposed to a federal one. All the powers of the government here are vested in the hands of the British Parliament, which is a sovereign body, and executive organs of the state are subordinate to the Parliament, and they exercise delegated powers and are answerable to the Parliament. The fifth feature is parliamentary executive. In country like India, we also have a parliamentary executive feature. India also follows the parliamentary type of government. That feature was borrowed from England as well. So let us see the parliamentary executive feature of England Constitution. This is one important similarity between the British and India. British has a parliamentary form of government. The king, who is considered as a sovereign power, has been deprived of all his powers and authority. The real functionaries here are the ministers who belong to the majority party in the parliament and remain in office as long as they retain its confidence. The Prime Minister and his ministers are responsible to the legislature for their acts and policies. In this system, the executive and legislatures are not separated as in the presidential form of government like USA. The next feature is sovereignty of the parliament. Since it is a parliamentary form of government, the parliament was considered as supreme or sovereign. The British parliament is the only legislative body in the country with unfettered power of legislations. It can make, amend, or repeal any law. The courts have no power to question the validity of the laws passed by the British Parliament. The British Parliament may amend the Constitution on its own authority. It can make illegal what is legal, it can make legal what is illegal. Here, there is a marked difference, vice versa. The power of the Indian judiciary to keep a tab on the legality of the law framed. Also, the basic structure doctrine lends the Indian judiciary further power to question the legality of the law in the light of the fact that the Supreme Court of India is the highest interpreter of the Constitution of India. The seventh feature is conventions. Conventions are known as unwritten maxims. Maxims are rules of the constitutions. They provide flexibility and avoid more number of amendments. Most of the constitutions of the world have the conventions. We do have in India. The British Constitution, in British Constitution, conventions are playing very important role in a political system of England. For example, while the Queen has the prerogative to refuse assent to a measure passed by the British Parliament, but by convention she does not do so, and the same has become the principle of the Constitution itself. However, the legal status of convention is subordinate to a written law. The eighth feature is rule of law. This checks the arbitrary action on part of executive, and it is the protection from the arbitrary arrest and the opportunity defend oneself. The rights of people in Britain are guaranteed by the judiciary. The judiciary gives recognition to the common laws. Thus, the people in Britain enjoyed rights even in the absence of the Bill of Rights or the fundamental rights, what we have in India and in USA. The ninth feature of England Constitution is independence of judiciary. This is also considered as a supreme feature. The rule of law in Britain is safeguarded by the provision that judges can only be removed from office for serious misbehavior and according to a procedure requiring the consent of both the House of the Parliament. So, the judges are able to give their judgments without any fear or favor. So the same has been adopted in India as well, where independence of judiciary is hailed as an unmistakable part of constitution. The next feature is